way this is going to work, it's a little different from the rest of the talks today. I'm going to be asking each of the YPAC members a question, and they will each have an opportunity to answer individually, and all of their answers are unedited and completely authentic. And really what we want to talk about is what changes are necessary to help children in their journey through the care system. So Jamal, I'm going to begin with you. As a young black male in the child welfare system, what changes would you like to see to our care system?
So growing up in the child welfare system, I spent the majority of my life growing up in there. And there's many things that worked and didn't work for me. There's one prevalent thing that comes to mind. My initial placement, I lived in a predominantly white family. They had white kids, and it was in a predominantly white community. And as much as I know their hearts were in the right place, there's many consistent reminders that I was an outsider from simply looking in the mirror and noticing the immediate color difference, as well as the people in the community who love to point out that they were my real family. So I can also remember not really hanging out with people that looked like me. The only time I really was able to hang out with people that looked like me was when I was attending various CS-run events or with visitation with my family. So it was a constant struggle for me to find my identity, as well as where I was placed in a culture that I was not actively involved in. So I would like to see more multicultural run homes. So the minorities that flood the current child welfare system have people that they can identify with, as well as who represent their cultural backgrounds they were in before they were entered in the system.
Good suggestions. Now, let's go to Maya. Because, Maya, you also struggled with your identity in foster care. What changes would you like to see?
I think that there needs to be a greater soulful investment of young people in care. All our lives, it's shoved down our throat that we're foster kids. It's clear at home, it's clear at school, and it's clear every 4 months that I see my social worker. I don't believe enough time and energy and money is invested into developing other elements to young people, because that's not the only thing that we are. And why not enroll a young child in music or sports and allow them to realize, to prove to the world, but more importantly, to prove to themselves that they've mastered it. Because that produces something powerful, it produces confidence. And in this world, you need it. Because once we turn 21, we're out. You know, we're on our own and we have to fend for ourselves. And, we have to fend for ourselves. And I think it's so important for the child welfare system to produce young people who are ambitious, who are resilient, and who can handle the constant slam doors in our faces. Because unless that happens, a very small fraction of young people in care will make it because they don't have the internal capacity to handle it. Yeah. And it's so important to raise young people who are confident because all that we have is the skin on our back the moment we graduate out of care, which is inevitable. And you know, I can't stress enough how important it is to focus on who we are, not just provide us with the physiological needs and the security, but also the self-actualization elements, the confidence, the self-esteem. So that's my answer.
Maya, if I could, I'd hire you in a second. Jimmy, based on your experiences, what changes would you like to see?
Of course, there's many things I would like to change, but one particular change that would excite me would be more one-on-one support for youth provided by workers. I have many friends who, quote-unquote, got lost in the system due to the lack of individual support at such a critical and vital stage in their development, so they turn to things like drugs to cope. Of course, I understand that the youth-to-worker ratio is at an all-time high, and that is part of the reason that workers cannot provide one-on-one support. So possibly that's one way agencies can look to lowering the caseload of workers so they can provide more time for youth while they're in care. because if you think about it, it's a very stressful job. Imagine having over 30 youths with unique cases that you have to provide service to. There's only so much time that you can provide one-on-one support, not because you don't want to, but because it is only humanly possible. I believe that the one-on-one support that I receive from my worker is the reason that I'm sitting here today, and I can say that, I'm about to graduate next month from the University of Toronto, and I'm in the process of pursuing my master's. So I believe one-on-one support is very important. So, yeah.
Great answer, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Kelly, your health started to deteriorate while you were in care. What changes would you like to see?
Yes. A big challenge for me is my health and obesity, which hinders my life physically, mentally, and emotionally. It's partially genetic, but being in the child welfare system did not help and caused my weight to go above 300 pounds. I gained 100 pounds while I was in care from eating whatever I wanted. I did not learn about nutrition or healthy eating habits. When staff saw I was getting bigger, they restricted my food intake. I did not understand why at the time and stole food. Their response was to only allow me a fruit of their choice for a snack. Based on my experiences, I recommend that workers in the child welfare system get mandatory training on how to work with people with obesity and that group homes use alternative consequences. I'm now in the 340s with 12 weight-related health conditions and need a PSW to help me with my personal care. I'm only approved for 2 hours a week due to a shoulder injury. Having the help of a PSW means that I'm able to care for my health so that I can focus on other aspects of my life, like school and a possible part-time job. With the Children's Aid Foundation funding, I was able to temporarily hire a PSW 3 times a week for a few months. I also got funding for 4 sessions with an amazing counselor. This support has had a huge impact on my life. This year alone, I've had 5 cancer-related tests, and a week today, we'll have a surgery to test for lymphoma. The struggle is real, the fight is torturous, and almost every day I want to quit. I have trouble embracing and accepting myself, but I will not let myself go, and I'm not stopping here. Obesity will not win or destroy me. Thank you.
Thank you. Christy, I'll ask you next because, like many people who went through the system, you had a tough time transitioning out of it, didn't you?
Yeah, I think that for me, the biggest change I would like to see is that supports should be more extensive to help prepare kids for transitioning out, and that they should be extended. In today's world, the job market is tough. Our emotional scars run deep. You can see that in every single youth in this room. And 21 just isn't a practical age for us to be completely out on our own. I think that we're forced to make hard decisions between finishing our educations and rent and groceries and stuff like that. And that's a really hard decision for kids to make when they've already been through so much. So I think that extending those supports to try and foster the change that we want to see. We say we want kids to go to university and we want them to finish and graduate and move on to positive outcomes. But the reality is that when we're out on our own at 21, many of us are still in the middle of or finishing school, even though we've transitioned directly from high school like we were supposed to. And I think that if there were longer supports past 21, and that if these supports included things like cooking classes and nutritional information and meetings with financial experts about balancing budgets and startup costs and these things that a parent would normally help a child to learn and get a mastery over. If those were provided, then we would be able to move over to more positive outcomes. And so I think that's the biggest transition that I would like to see. We're put out at 21 through no fault of our own and against our wishes, and we're not given the same support that our peers are given, and it's just one more mark of our difference, and I think that that needs to stop.
Thank you. Tammy, let me ask you, because based on your experiences with the system and now being a mother, I understand, what changes would you like to see?
First of all, I want to say that the system isn't complete flawless. It's allowed me to achieve many of my goals, which primarily was my education. Education was the only way for me to cope with whatever I was going through in care. And now I can say that I've achieved my self-actualization by completing my master's this year. And thank you. So I'm able to give back to my children and able to, have an abuse-free life for my children. I think what's important change for me would be allowing parents to have workshops and counseling sessions for them to avoid apprehension. I think apprehension should be the absolute last resort for children in care. Parents and family needs to be able to have that awareness and that education and how to create lasting relationships for children to avoid the care system. Secondly, workers need to not only have a BSW or MSW or an MA, but I think what's key and pertinent is that they understand the challenges that youth in care faced, first and foremost, to understand youth from cultural backgrounds and to just understand who we are. We're more than just a number. And hire someone like myself who's educated and, in the system, I have both experiences. And lastly, to create spaces for youth in care to come together more than just Christmas time, to not feel alienated. And, we've recently lost a dear YPAC member at Christmas time, David. And I think if we as a system created more environments for youth like us and youth that are in care, I think that would have been avoided. Depression is really hard to deal with, and coming together and showing love and unity is key. So that's a start.
I know from personal experience that it is always a bit nerve-wracking getting up and speaking in front of people, but honestly, the confidence and the bravery that you guys showed in telling your story, I think you've profoundly inspired a lot of people in this room, so we thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.